Welcome to Mile High Reefers. I'm Scott Anderson, and I'm at Reef Builders Studio. All right, so I'm here with Jake Adams of Reef Builders and Orlando Salazar of Aquamedic. Jake, thank you so much for having us at your studio. This is so amazing. Take us on a tour. Tell us what's going on.
First of all, I want to make it clear to everyone that there's nothing for sale here. This is free videos. This is a studio, just like the name implies. You guys know I'm a stickler for grammar, and words have a meaning. So this is a studio to practice reefing, to make videos, to share that with everyone. You know, for the last 10 years, I've written over 6,000 posts. We've published 11,000 stories in Reef Builders. And people, you know, believe us to a certain degree when we say X, Y, and Z. But with the studio now, it's time to pivot and to show, to display, to demonstrate easier ways to do what we're currently doing, and a lot of out-of-the-box thinking of what is possible with small tanks, big tanks, large tanks, fish tanks, reef tanks, and everything in between. You know, so let me take you around and kind of show you what the Reef Builder Studio is all about. So this is the entire space. It's 2,400 square feet, 222 square meters for our non-American viewers. And I have the place kind of loosely broken up into like 20 by 20 square foot sections. So back here is a storage room. It's not very pretty, so I won't show you that, but this is a very important space for keeping everything super clean. So this is the storage kind of area, and bring you into the workshop. So this is the workshop area, and this is a dedicated space for water quality management, for fragging, for receiving. You can see a tank over there. I received some corals, some beautiful corals from Worldwide Corals today. Got the Kessel 360X for displaying them, but this is where the work happens. So I've got all my brightwell additives here, and still a lot of room for shelves, and just, I figure the more shelves I have, the cleaner and more organized everything can be. So like right behind you, this is the water quality shelf. So this is specifically, I have Roafos, I'll have carbon, I got the Aquarium water testing kits from Aquamedic, ICP test, LO's test, and then salinity is a super big one. That's why it's on the bottom shelf, so I can reach it all the time. So that's salinity and temperature. This is, you know, one of the best things you can use for measuring temperature and calibrating with everything else. This is where water is going to be getting made. To me, this is almost like a shrine, because good seawater at the right salinity cannot be undervalued. You're right, so I will worship these. I'm going to put charms on them. I'm going to put little candles around them. First, I have to shore up the stand, because this is not going to hold up 3,500 pounds. But so
what is that, about 400 gallons there you can mix them?
Yeah, 210 and 210. So I can put 200 gallons of water and have 10 gallons of room for the salt. So 210s. I wanted them tall because I'm a tall dude. That way I can store stuff underneath. Lots of counter space. You can see like how much time I spend in here versus a storage room. Right? This is really important. So we have like the dishwashing sink where I just put you know, my little riser plate. So this is dishwashing sink. This is like the you know, sorry, that's like the equipment washing sink. This is a dishwashing sink, and there's another sink behind that wall for actually washing your hands. So 3 sinks in this place, and yeah, just super important to stay organized so I know where things are. And I like having a lot of shelf space so I can see everything at a glance. And something I haven't built out yet is this area right here. I'm going to put together a dolly, and this is where I'm going to have like all the fragging tools, because fragging is not just for propagation, it's also for like cleaning up unwanted snails and sponges and algae and cutting off dead parts of the coral. So at some point, like, this is going to be really well filled out for like coral manicuring tools.
You have a saw there?
So there's going to be a saw, there's going to be a Dremel tool, there's going to be, you know, a hand saw, there's going to be just like every little tool. There's going to be glue, there's going to be several types of epoxy, because different epoxies work differently. So, and then all the different frag plugs. So I want to get like I said, a big dolly here to be able to like roll it out to the rest of the show floor.
Okay, where to next, Jake?
Okay, so I think I've already stressed the importance of the workshop for supporting the rest of the space. The studio is not possible unless I'm making videos, right? So this right here is the media lounge. So we got the TV, we got the amps to power the speakers, we got the computer with the monitor, and I have a better computer and storage array at home, but I'm waiting to get a much better desk to put it on. I'm not putting a $5,000 computer on a $100 desk. You know? So this is the media lounge, you know, because it's really important that once the videos are made, I can see them on several different screens and the big screens and hear them and look at them, right? Don't just push them online, but really critique myself on what's to be happening. So this 20 by 20 square foot space, this is actually where I'll be doing some live streams because I have fiber to the building. So when I do live streams here, when I look at the live stream itself, it's like a half a second behind. Whereas normally at my house with great decent upload but faster download, it's like a 30-second delay, which kind of messes you up for live streaming. So live streaming presentations will be right here. And then the rest of the space is like where the magic is happening. And you see 2 poles. So these poles, again, 20 by 20 square foot. So this area right here is one of the most important because this is going to be basically like the support area. So here we've got a fish system for the fish to come in, be quarantined, conditioned, be held. I'll probably get some more. And this is where the coral tanks are starting out. So this looks more like a fish store where I'm just kind of collecting stuff and gathering stuff. But basically this is going to be kind of like the fish store side of things for one person, that's me, where I can come over here and buy my corals or select some fish, and then I can bring them over to this area. And pretty much the rest of the space that I haven't described, this is all display. And the beauty of it is I don't have to fill it up, right? It's not a fish store. There is no pressure to use every square foot to maximize the revenue per area. So there's going to be a lot of tanks here, but there's going to be a lot of empty space in between to really highlight the tanks. So this is the support area, and this begins the display area. So one of the first show tanks I'm working on is what I'm calling the Reef Builders flagship reef. And this is going to be to recognize my sponsors. So we've got a water box aquarium, but this is going to be using exclusively Ecotech Marine equipment, Bright World Aquatics additives, and Worldwide Corals. So this is one peninsula tank, and I've got a Red Sea Peninsula tank I've got planned for there. So it'll be like, you know, kind of a semi-room divider. And then if you do a 180 behind you, these are the Innovative Marine EXT aquariums. And we've got the EXT 100. These are beautiful. These are actually way beautiful than Innovative Marine has any right to make them. Right? There could be somebody else's brand on there and you would believe it. But these are the best tanks Innovative Marine has made. High clarity glass, really cool modular aluminum stands. So this is the EXT 100, 4 feet long. EXT 75, 3 feet long. And then I have 2 more tanks on the way. This is the EXT Mini 40, which is 2 feet long. And then the EXT 30 long, which is a little bit shorter, more of like a frag tank. So I'm going to have a shallow tank here, kind of frag-like, a 2 foot, a 3 foot, a 4 foot. So I can test some common consumer-grade aquarium equipment for 2 foot tanks, 3 foot tanks, 4 foot tanks. And that's you know, a big chunk of this area, not just making displays, but you know, testing out some of this equipment and not putting it on a 3 foot tank and thinking, oh, maybe it's good enough for a 4 foot tank, or putting it on a 5 foot tank and thinking, okay, this might work on a 3 foot, but no, for reals. So this is going to be the Innovative Marine system, and this is a sump that I need to refurbish. And so I'm not going to run these independently; they're all going to be on one system, right? So this is one of the other systems, and I've got some really special and almost intimidating size dimension tanks in the works, but I'm going to wait till those actually arrive.
And you got big stuff sitting behind you, dude.
So yeah, so there's 3 tanks over here. These are all acrylic. They definitely need some refurbishing. You know, this is what you get with free tanks. So I need to build I need to build a stand for this one. I need to buff the glass, the acrylic in front, inside and out. I am really leaning towards making this a coral tank because I love used corals, and all my coral tanks over there are like 10 inches deep, right? So you need some fatter tanks. So I think this might be like a fowler, right? Fish only with live rock, where I could put like big colonies of staghorn or capricornus or leather corals or just whatever jumbo stuff. So I'm thinking really leaning towards making this a fowler. And then these two tanks are definitely going to be fish tanks. Again, they need a little bit more polishing. They probably need a new paint job. I am going to paint this one too, but these will probably be on the same system. These are going to be purely fish tanks. They'll be hyposaline, occasionally coppered, but really run for fish. And with this much volume, I can have a lot of fish, but I don't have to crowd them. You know, I don't have to crowd them. So yeah, really looking forward to having some pet fish. I'm not sure what's going to be the first one, but definitely some species on my hit list are a harlequin tusk. I've always loved that fish. I've never had one. I've never had Harley.
Australian harlequin tusk.
Yeah, there is no other tusk. Broomtail wrasse, Red Sea broomtail wrasse, and a handful of others that I've held them and I've taken care of them at stores and stuff that I've worked at, but never had one of my own. So really looking forward to getting those started. So before I was able to get a bunch of aquariums in here, while I was just making all the preparations and the plans and kind of laying it out, I wanted some life in here. And I'm not one for houseplants, but I do love trees. So right behind us, we have a nice Dracaena that it's actually been growing really, really surprisingly well in this, you know, shaded internal environment. We've got a Norfolk Island pine. So this comes from like a really southern island of Australia off the coast, which is very clouded. That's why I can grow it indoors. Did you know what this is?
I don't.
This is coffee.
Is it really?
This is actually a coffee plant. You've heard of shade-grown coffee, right? So this is actually a coffee plant.
That's cool.
And it's spinning. That's just the coolest part of this.
Well, I've alluded to some future concepts that I want to explore in the future, and I figured I might as well get the turntables now and use them for the plants.
I use that for video work, but that's an awesome idea.
I'm going to use them for videos as well. But I definitely want to highlight my pyramid of accuracy salt. This salt is special to me not only because it's formulated by Julian Sprung, but it's mixed by Julian Sprung. Mr. Man makes this stuff himself. His recipe, his protocols, he mixes it himself. You know how cool that is?
And physically, he's not like telling somebody to do
No, he is actually at the machine, dials and stuff.
His
and
hands are getting dirty.
Dude, that's just, you know, a side shoot. So, Julian, you're my man, you're my boy. Thank you so much for the pyramid of salt.
And we got the man himself on your shirt.
Yes, Mr.
Which is like the coolest shirt ever.
So I think, you know, the last thing, there's so much going to be happening here in the studio. Definitely, you know, subscribe to the Reef Builders YouTube channel. Make sure to follow up with Scott because him and I are homies. We're going to do a lot of collabs. But the last thing I really want to show you is the coral tank at the end. All right, so this system is really, really cool. It's a shallow coral holding table that kind of fell into my lap with like this really, really cool possibilities. Most of all, it's got a back section in the back that I've been basically using as an all-in-one filtration section. And so I'm able to do a lot with very, very little. So I've got 6 Radion G4 Pros. I'm gonna turn the flow off so you can kind of see what's happening in here. But so yeah, right now this is the only tank that's actually running. And man, I have been like ridiculously impressed with how good a huge, huge diversity of corals are doing in here. Right before Reef Palooza, had a little diatom outbreak, and we all know what happens when the diatoms start. You're gonna be right in those for like 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know what happened. I wiped it down, I hit it with a little bit of marine snow, zeolite marine snow, to just kind of lock up some nutrients and clear it up. I had a little bit of Perdibio, and then I went to California for 5 days, and I came back, and the system was ridiculously clean. Like,
looks good.
So clean. Yeah, but you know what this would look like with diatoms everywhere?
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, there's a little bit of corals everywhere. I don't have enough flow in here because I'm trying to balance it out for the acros and the LPS because this is the first system going. But if, Orlando, if you'll let him scoot through
go for it.
So this is a really, really cool thing. This system back here, what I've done is I have the Vectra M1, which is both pulling from this back section and pulling from the tank. So it's a hybrid closed loop. And it's really, really cool.
I really like that. That's
the
amazing.
idea just kind of, it was like a eureka moment. because when I had it just pulling from the back, it was just too much water for this overflow to handle. And obviously I can't pull just from the tank because then it's no filtration action. So to run this entire system, minus the lights, it's 3 things: skimmer, 1 pump, a heater.
That's so simple.
How cool
Very
is that?
simple.
Test.
Well, you know, if you're doing one system, right? If you have one system, yeah, have all the bells and whistles. You know, put a plug-in ATO, put a plug-in
So tell
reactor.
me about your ATO while you're talking about ATOs, because
So just is kind of like what I was, you know, kind of leaning into saying is if you have a lot of systems, every extra plug counts, right? Because it's a multiplier. So if I had an ATO for every system, that's one more thing to plug in, one more thing to break, one more thing to service and maintain. And being not quite old school, not new school, but kind of middle school. That sounds weird. I love this mechanical float valve. I don't know about the other ones. This mechanical float valve never freaking fails. The water's high now because I turned off the water flow, but this pickle barrel right here is 55 gallons. I'm looking for a stand to elevate it, you know, probably like 2 more feet so I can use the entire pickle barrel. But in that pickle barrel, I have buffer, I have replenish for trace elements, I have aqua power for amino acids. And that's just like, now it's really coasting and really, so yeah, you know, I gotta be mindful of that. If you have one tank and you have a plug-in ATO, yeah, by all means, go for it. But if you, like I plan here to have, you know, a dozen systems, that's 12 more plugs, 12 more pumps to, you know, keep clean, 12 more switches to keep clean. These mechanical float valves, I have never had one fail. You know, also I'm not super probiotic, so I don't have incrustations everywhere. I'm not the guy who's dosing powdered calcium like directly to the tank and causing precipitation and stuff. You know, as you can see, you see this tank? This tank is a month old. I expect this tank to look more or less like this in 6 months. It's going to look pretty much just like what you see.
Yeah.
You know, there'll be a little bit more detritus or less detritus, but yeah, this is how it rolls. Just kind of probiotic, and for me, this is what works.
absolutely. So Jake, there's a term you used. It's used coral, used fish. I love it. Explain why this is such a cool thought.
You know, when you say something, when you talk about furniture and consumer electronics, used is almost a derogatory term. It means that it's cheaper. It means that it's worse. It means that it's old. But when you talk about a used coral or used fish, it's the opposite because it's been conditioned, it's been quarantined, it's used to aquarium life. Whether it's a fish or an anemone or coral strain, for me, used coral is gold. You know, so people know me going to fish stores. I'm not looking for the named, you know, 3 different adjectives for one particular coral, rainbow this, ultra that. Just look at the coral, look at the fish, and used fish. When you walk into a store and you see a used fish, you know it. You know it. That fish behaves differently. It's colored differently. Just everything about it is just like super duper ready. So yeah, I love me some used corals and some used fish. You know, corals from the wild, they come in a certain way. You know what the wild corals look like. And so when you see a used coral at the fish store, you're like, oh yeah, somebody brought that in. You know, because corals don't come in like that. And then kind of along the same lines is what I call legacy corals. You know, I have corals in my care that I've had for more than half my life. And so these are actually some of them, these hammer corals right here. This particular hammer coral strain I've had since 2000 to 2001. You know, back in the day, that was as green as a branchy hammer coral got, right? When there was only a handful of boxes coming out of Indonesia every other week. I never imagined that I would have this coral for the rest of my life. There's enough of this coral around now. These corals, these pieces right here, they're smaller because they got coppered.
Did they really?
This is a long story. I'm not going to get into it. They got coppered. They pulled through. They don't care. They don't give a F. And then, you know, on the other side, this is a sunburst anemone, and I know there's a lot of hype around them right now. This guy's pale because I just put him in here. But I've been following this particular strain for 12 years. You know, so for me, the Colorado sunburst is not a fancy name. It's not a $2,000 anemone. It's an anemone that I, first saw at Patrick's house in 2006. You know, 180-gallon tank with T5 fluorescence. It might have been VHOs. I don't know.
Probably VHOs.
And so, you know, legacy corals. We tell the story of places that I've been, people that I've met. And speaking of that, I want to show you the 2 kind of established tanks here. You know, my first freshwater tank where I was actually paying attention. So these are mollies. It's what I had in my first freshwater tank. And little known fact about live bearers, in particular mollies, is that they can be acclimated to seawater. So I'm slowly acclimating these to seawater, thanks to Live Aquarium for sending these over. And I currently have them at 21 parts per thousand, so they're a little bit more than 50% of seawater. So I could technically throw a damselfish in here, but I'm not in a rush, you know, just as the water evaporates, add seawater. And I'm gonna have a live bear reef here in the future with mollies swimming around, leather corals and trachophilias, and some hammers. This tank. This is an 8-gallon JBJ flat panel that I had in a box in my closet for at least 2 years, right? And so when I set this place up, I'm like, I need a token reef tank because it's going to be a while before the real reef tanks are ready. And guys, you just don't need that much to have a great reef tank. It's just
It looks fantastic.
Doesn't it though? I do nothing. I do nothing to this tank. There's no protein skimmer. There's water flow for the return that's flowing the corals. There's a heater, super important to keep the temperature right. There's no ATO because the thing is covered, right? So this is like 4 weeks of evaporation. Why would you put an ATO on a small tank like this? So for some of these nano tanks, people keep putting ATOs on there and kind of like asking for a cascade of problems. Yeah. But the easy fix for nano tanks for evaporation is just cover the freaking tank, which you kind of need to keep the fish from jumping out. So this is a 12-year-old hammer coral strain, the one that I've shared with you guys. This is the one that I just showed you.
It's awesome.
That's nearly 20 years old. This is a yellow hammer I got from you guys last week.
Sweet.
This is a candy coral strain I've also had for since about 2001, same as you saw over there. Green polyp leather, Steve Chang had those back in '99. Nice. Yep. So half of these corals are older than some of the viewers.
It's true.
Right? And then these are some beautiful Ghani's frags I got from you guys, ridiculously cheap. And I think they're thriving in this tank because I don't have a protein skimmer, so they have extra organics. I'm more generous with the trace additives, trace elements in this tank than I am with feeding this fish. This fish gets fed maybe 4 times a week. Usually 3.
That's awesome.
But I feed him good, and just look at his weight and yeah, you look fine.
And I love that fish. I was eyeballing that fish because I couldn't figure out what it was.
Yeah. So it's an oddball of a really common coral. And here's like a real piece of wisdom for you guys. I have this 8-gallon tank. I have stronger pumps. I have brighter lights. If you look right under there, there's a really nice Nemo light from Marine Depot. It's twice the power of this light. It's more colorful than this light. I put it on this tank, and I was like, yeah, it's a little bit brighter. It's a little bit more colorful. But this light is perfect for this tank, right? These are not the most colorific. These corals can look prettier.
Absolutely.
But if to make them prettier, I'd have to change out the light. Changing out the light would maybe, grow more algae, and I'd have to do more water changes, and scrape the tank a little bit more. And it's just hit like a perfect stride. It's 2 months old. It looks more or less the same as it did like first week. For you guys that watched my videos early on, I didn't do anything to this tank. I just put corals in, and then when I got the fish, I put 1 Brightwell BioCube in. That's it. And I was just like, yeah, I could tweak this, I could turbocharge it, or I could just leave it alone and really, really enjoy it.
And you basically put water in this tank and put coral in, right? There wasn't much.
Yeah, same time. So yeah, obviously if you have more than one tank, you kind of want to mess with it, you want to fuss with it, you want to use it as a hobby. But this tank, told me to stop, right? I put that light on it and I said, you know what, it's a little bit brighter, it's a little bit more colorful, but no. No, I'm just not going to do it. And so, think about that in your tank. There's a possibility, opportunity for you to make it a little bit brighter, a little bit more colorful, add something. Do you really need it? Do you really need it? Or could you just spend more time just enjoying the tank, looking at the corals, looking at the fish? Because you know what? Good testing service, such as those from AWT, are really good and important, but there is no substitute for observation.
Correct.
Observation is absolutely, that should be, test kits 1 through 9. Then the 10th test kit is actually testing some chemistry.
I'd absolutely agree with that for sure. Let the tank tell you what it needs, what it wants, for sure.
Well, Jake, thank you so much for having us over to your studio. This is amazing. So thank you. Let's all do a cheers.
Toast.
Cheers.
Mr. Reefing.
Cheers.
Reefing.
Just Orlando not being in the frame.
There he is. All right. Thanks, Jake. Thank you, Orlando.
Yeah, thanks for
you.
coming over, and we'll see you guys on the next video.
Laters.
Cheers. Bros.
Cheers.